Okay, so I needed to talk a little bit more about some things coming up as well. Next week, July 9th through the 14th, is your final literature review assignment due. So that means that you have to take the feedback that you received on your preliminary literature review and update it and add more sources to create a final literature review with the following requirements. And again, it's focused toward your planned research study. So what that means is you're starting to, in a literature review, as I mentioned before, you start general and then go specific. And so if your study was about reading methods in high school, you might first start talking about reading methods in general or high school learning in general, and then you might get more specific on reading methods within a high school audience instead. And you might even talk about, instead of reading methods or just high school, you might talk about reading methods anywhere, just from K through 12 or even in university. And then you might go, well, probably not university on reading methods, but anyway, and then you'd go much more specific to just in the high school. And so that's how it should go. It should go from general to specific. You're going to use APA formatted narrative writing as you did before in your previous assignment. Make sure you categorize your studies logically, and we talked about this in the previous assignment as well, that you organize your studies well. Make your writing flow logically and systematically, and 15 or more sources of information. So prior to this, I think you just had to I just required 7 in the preliminary literature review. Now you have to have 15 sources. So this is kind of your full literature review. And then an introduction, body, and summary. So again, you're going to introduce things and then summarize things at the end. One thing to remember is that you're never going to use the word we or I in this literature review. This is a review of just what the literature says. So you'll talk a lot about what the literature says, and you'll talk about what will be covered in the literature review in your introduction, for instance. And in your summary, you'll talk about what the literature said or what was in the literature about your subject. But you're never going to say, I did this search or I found these articles or that kind of a thing, or talk about my own experience with regard to these items or things that I'm talking about. So remember that. But basically, yeah, you're taking your preliminary literature review and you're adding to it. You're adding studies to it. And I might have mentioned for some of you some areas that you could add to your literature review to make it more complete. And if I didn't, though, you might just expand each area in your literature review with extra studies that you found under that area. So that's what you're going to do for this assignment due next week. And it has much the same rubric as the previous literature review assignment. You have methods and results from each reference study adequately presented. The lit review includes the required structure, it flows well with transitional and organizing sentences and paragraphs, organizes reference studies logically. APA formatting is used for all in-text citations. Document overall is APA formatted and 15 or more sources cited and referenced. And APA formatting for all items in the reference list, and few or no spelling grammatical errors. So there are a couple of final literature review examples down below that you can take a look at. And there are additional, I think even additional literature review items from this general class items and then example work from the past. You can find maybe even more final literature reviews. So that is due next week, but of course I want you to know about that this week so that you understand that it's going to be due. Just to talk about this a little bit, for APA document formatting, one thing that I haven't brought up and I haven't really graded you too harshly on is this document APA format. And what that means is basically, what does the document overall look like? Are the headings right? Is there the right titles? Page numbers, that kind of a thing. So that's what I'm talking about with APA document formatting. And from now on, I'm going to be grading this because I'm presenting about it now on what to do to make sure that your APA document is formatted well. So I'll start grading that with the assignment due this week, Design Participants and Procedures, so that you can learn APA document format as well. What I'm going to do is I'm going to take this paper that I have written recently and submitted for publication, And I had to submit it to a journal that did not require this kind of document formatting, and so this is how I submitted it. But it needs APA document formatting to be added into it. And for my reference for this, I'm going to use General Class Items Sample Papers APA. And under that, there's this sample APA paper from the OWL, or the Online Writing Lab. And I can go ahead and click on the sample APA paper here. And this is going to give me my sample of what I need to have. So I'm noticing something right now. There's a header within the heading of the paper that has page numbers on it. And it says running head and then gives the title of my paper. And that's what I need to add here. So here's the title of my paper. But that actually needs to go into a header. So in Word, I can just double click on an area above the writing and I can add this in, and it said running head, and it should be the same font as what is in the paper. In this case I'm using Times New Roman, so let me just go there and change that. And then it includes the title from the paper, which I'm going to copy and paste in there. And the title of the paper is actually capitalized. All of it is all caps, and it's not bolded, so I'm going to unbold it and then I will all cap it. Let's see, I've got this option here to do uppercase. Okay, now if you notice that the paper does go, this should be left justified too over here. The paper does go into 2 lines. That's not allowed. You can't go to 2 lines in your title on the header. And so what they do say to do is to limit this to 50 characters only, and don't end in the middle of a word. So I'm going to count 50 characters. I don't know any better way to do this, I guess. Well, I could probably look at this and just see what word count comes up. But anyway, I'll just count 50 characters, or just go to a place where you think it might be good. And I'll probably end it right there. Increasing children's media literacy is a good place to end it. That kind of gives an idea of what's going on here. So that is the running head part of this. If I look back at my example 2, I have a page number here on the right, so I need to add that page number in on the right. And one thing to be aware of, I'm going to go ahead and copy this running head so I have it saved, because what happens actually is if I go over to the right here and I say insert page number, let's see, where is my page number insert? On the Mac it's different. So here we go, insert page numbers. On the right, top of page, header, and I hit OK. Sometimes what will happen is that will delete what's on the left here if I do that. So that's why I copied it before, just to make sure. And then I want to make sure that's also the right font. So Times New Roman. And there we go. I've got page number. I've got the first running header for increasing children's media literacy. So each page that you create must have these elements on the first page, or each paper that you create must have these elements on the first page. Now the first page I'm noticing is a little different than what I have here too. My page starts out with an abstract for submitting this for publication, but what happens here is that the abstract actually only comes after a title page. So I'm going to just hit enter, bring this down to the second page, because my abstract page is the second page, and go back up, and I'm going to add my title page. So again, I've got the title here, Increasing Children's Media Literacy in a Digital Media Camp Experience. I can copy and paste that here. It should go centered and not bold, as if that's what I'm seeing here. Yeah. Now it could be 2 lines. If it fits on 1 line, it might be better. And then you have your name and the university where you're from. So that's what the title page should have. There's extra items here like author note and correspondence and so forth. I don't want you to put that or require that. Just put the title, your name, Northern State University. So I'm going to do that for this one. I see that it's coming in bold, so I'll have to change that. There we go. And this makes up my title page, just like that. So there's just a title page with nothing else on it but the title, author name, university, that kind of thing. All right, so that's the first page. I think we're good on that. Again, I mentioned before that you don't have to put these extra items here for your assignment. All right. So now the second page is a little bit different. If you notice in the header, it says varying definitions of online communication, but it does not have this running head item anymore over here. And so what we actually have to do is something special in Microsoft Word that allows us to create a new section for the header to be different. So I'm going to select my cursor in between the two headers somewhere, and I'm going to go to Document Elements and then choose Break and choose at the next page, I'm going to insert a section break and start a new section on the next page. And then I'm going to go to header, or to my header, and I hope that this works in order for me to change it. Oh, here we go. I have same as previous here, and I want to make sure that is not the same as previous, so that it can be different than the previous header. So let me set that. So now if I go like this, you'll see that the first page also changes, and so I can't have that. So I'm going to undo that. But I need to go to section 2, and then I need to change this so that it's not the same as previous sections. Let's see if I can find that too here. Again, it's different on the Mac. I know where it is on the Windows machine, but this one's maybe not my cup of tea. Let's take a look here.